Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Valley. So, I actually left this game paused this time, so hopefully things will work. It does seem like the music is playing, although it seems super quiet. I think I went in here and kind of changed it a little bit. Um, but we'll see if that works. We're still looking for the life seed, which seems to be the only goal that's going to exist in this game at all. And there, wow, that really felt like we just fell into a really deep hole. I mean, once again, just how tall am I? Like, even in the leaf suit, it seems like everything is just way off scale. I have quite a low uh, amount of energy compared to the maximum, but a fine amount of energy, I imagine, regardless otherwise. And yeah, I'm still just kind of wondering if we are going to come back and have to deal with some of this stuff. No trees or orbs nearby. Take energy from the storage cells to restock your reserves. So now they're introducing that idea that the Russians, the previous people around here, uh, stored the Amrita energy, making it now a situation where you can just suck energy out of it, but there's kind of a limit to the amount of energy you can get. I guess. Finally, the game is actually threatening you for wandering around. You have to be in the actual facility at the place where I guess this is where people would normally be entering. They would have taken the elevator and gone through that gate. This is kind of like an entrapment room or storage room where you could trap people if they tried to ram the gates or rush the gates. Apparently, this just refills in time, so it is an infinite generator of energy, and it does take us into that thought that I was having, where how is this game going to really work when it was a more urban environment. We see some blood here, and the Soma name of the facility is still a problem. I just don't feel like they needed to call a facility Soma. I don't think Soma is like this completely recognizable, obvious like acronym for anything, like scientific organization. No, I have no idea. Yeah, mechanical apparatus. No. I can definitely, once they introduced the car crashing through that door, that introduces the idea of it would be nice to crouch down. But if I could crouch down, I would like to also find out that I could uncrouch down, and that I have been just crouched this entire time. Yeah, and this looks like we might actually run into some kind of enemy. But how weird would this game be if this all of a sudden just turned into a horror game and there's some kind of monster in the facility? No, from a guard, I'd give anything to be a Pathfinder, but there's no way I'd never be eligible unless I suddenly lost 60 pounds. That'll never happen. Too bad. I bet I could pick up a lot of girls in those things. Yeah, definitely just looks like there's blood everywhere. And then this flashing thing does not give you energy, nor does it take energy. So it's just, I guess, there. Here we have Andrew Fisher audio logs, which was just a box we picked up.
1942. My name is Andrew Fisher, leading physicist and head of Project Pendulum. Pendulum is the research and development project directed by the Army Corps of Engineers to produce a weapon of mass destruction that can bring an end to the war through the unconditional surrender of our enemies. In response to the spy-ridden efforts of the Manhattan Project, headed by my cohort, Robert Oppenheimer, Pendulum has been founded under the utmost secrecy. Funds, pride, and soldiers' lives are all on the line in a race to win the war, thus giving rise to the name Pendulum.
So am I just an idiot? Did I just see a star and assume it was Russians, and this whole time it's been old Americans? I think I am an idiot. I think that is the case. Wow. Well, boy, do I feel dumb after that. We're not going to do anything with these pieces of paper. Would certainly explain why none of them have, like, Russian names or Russian voices. Let's see. What does this say? Note from a researcher. Within the Soma facility, we are surrounded by Amarita fuel slugs extracted from the valley. As such, we tend to be isolated from the effects of the Pathfinder's quantum death side effects. I'm amazed to one day step out of the facility to see scores of trees dead around me. So apparently, people inside the facility were not being killed when a Pathfinder died, which I guess would have been a real concern. And it does kind of feel like this is some weird zero-sum game that would just occur. And again, that looks very Bioshock. The name of the guy that we're getting audio logs from is very Bioshock. Even the King character is very similar to one of the female major leads in the Bioshock series. They're really just copying way too much and not telling a unique enough story on its own. Yeah, it is a weird zero-sum game, though. One Pathfinder is going to eventually die enough to just steal all the life from everybody else, and one assumes that the life can be sucked out of another Pathfinder, which would kill them, which would then have that Pathfinder get into a loop killing everybody around them, which seems like if two Pathfinders were anywhere close to each other and there was no other life, then they would simply die over and over again for all of eternity, creating a infinite loop. Not sure if this is going to turn on the lights or do what. There's like a power cord that goes that way. So I guess we'll just do it. Yep. It's weird to have Amarita generators or any generators just in the middle of a room. And it's kind of weird that you don't get a shortcut here. Oddly, they've done some good video game design in this concept by the energy battery is way over there, so I can just suck out energy if necessary, and that's probably why that is the way. They've done some good like foreshadowing level design there, which they really haven't done that anywhere else. And then I guess the question is, are we going to waste a bunch of energy seeing if we need to be on top of these shelves, or does that not matter? Seems to me like it probably doesn't matter. Did I just clip through something so I could see the other side, or is there just another side? Alright. Let's play this legitimately. guy's moving fairly fast. And I guess if these guys decided to move faster, that could be the beginning of the end for me. I could see myself running out of energy. And I guess it was slightly interesting that there was a bit of a shortcut ending there. We're still looking for collectibles. And mostly wasting our time. I assume they've put all this stuff in such a way so that you don't have to be concerned about. Apparently that has energy already because that is one of the batteries. Now you can't hold down the button to absorb all the energy, which I feel like that's a mistake. There's really no reason why you couldn't put a simple programming loop command there. Insert a delay of half a second. If you hold down the button, act as if you're pressing the button multiple times. Yeah, and we're in that position again where probably want us to walk through this air vent, but if we're going to try to play it somewhat thoroughly, we need to look around and see what we can find. But there's kind of nothing to find. And since this game is only a few steps away from an asset flip game, definitely feels like in this situation you would be fairly well suited to see like some kind of corpses frozen in time, statues, something creepy that doesn't really even mean anything. Right before being sent here, I got sent to I got to see the Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup. The goal by old Petey Lagel was one to remember. I bet anything they're gonna win the cup again next year. I'd even bet my children on it. They didn't. They don't really like me anyhow. That's odd backstory for just a random guard. Unless this one random guard turns out to become a boss character that fights us, which I doubt. That's how that's gonna go. Seems like we'd have to fall a lot harder to open this area, but we may very well get something that opens up an elevator. Yeah, it feels like there should be some horror element to this, and it as a game that seems like it's mostly buying pre-made Unity assets, it probably wouldn't be hard for them to have bought some horror elements, or they could have gone crazier with the mushrooms and those elements, and just done something there. Or maybe they'll introduce yet another Amarita swarm, but I don't know what more you can do to spice that up.
As a precaution to both Nazi and Soviet espionage, Pendulum's location and purpose is unknown to the outside world. Taking a cue from the Manhattan Project, only a small few know of Pendulum's purpose, operating under the guise of an alternative energy project. As it came to light that Manhattan had been plagued with espionage, it was agreed upon to shroud Pendulum within the government itself. All those who knew of Pendulum's true intent are here. Though admittedly extreme, we can ensure an ironclad umbrella of secrecy. Information can only come in, and none can go out. As far as anyone outside this valley knows, Pendulum does not exist. This valley does not exist.
Someone talked to loose lips ships. Let's all work together. I can't quite read that. Let's see. If I can get a little bit higher and get a better angle at it. Their lives are in your hands. Okay. So that kind of explains why the leaf suits and that technology never went anywhere. There's nowhere to go up here except for this way. We still are getting flung way too far. And that still feels like a failure. And there's a collectible down that way that it feels like the only way you could have gotten it is if you had found a path in the air conditioner vent before you walked out of the air conditioner vent. And if you didn't do that, it seems like you can't go back into the air conditioner vents. And these all seem faked. You don't have like a punching ability or anything that would make you be able to open these types of things. I feel like this door may unlock at some point. You do crouch down, but only automatically. Oddly, it's just automatic. All you do is walk forward, and then it automatically crouches you down. Once you're no longer need to walk forward, it automatically uncrouches you downward, and that's that. Feels like walking through these air vents also opens up the realm of possibility of rats running around. This would be a great place for rats to run around, and you could potentially suck the life out of things. Seems like we've got a decent number of these hooks broken, perhaps indicating that someone has been running around reducing some of the Metroidvania abilities. I'm not sure if I wouldn't be surprised, let me just put it that way, if the swinging on the crane hooks and maybe one or two other movement abilities unlock, and that's it. I don't know what else would show up on the menu in the lower right hand corner to kind of balance out that image, but if you look at the text and the way it's highlighted, there's room for maybe 4 or 5 more things. Yeah. So when you look at the text labeling it, but I wouldn't be surprised if half of them are just you get a triple jump instead of a double jump, or you get a magnet to absorb Amrita, or you can now deal more damage to the Amrita swarms. Interesting. I don't think it's going to let me power it until I am actually in the room.
Welcome to the Pendulum Research and Development Site. All personnel must report to the front desk with appropriate security clearance.
Yeah. This is Rapture. I mean, this is just straight up a clone of Rapture. And I don't know what they're thinking here. There's basically nobody that would have played this game that would have not have at least seen some of BioShock, or probably played all of the first game, if not more. I kind of admire the audacity of it for some small company to say, hey, let's just steal all the ideas from BioShock, one of the biggest AAA games that came out in the past few decades, and let's just make a game that is stealing beat for beat significant portions of it. Note from a worker, we better finish this project soon. Those supply drops are only scheduled to arrive a few more months. Otherwise, due to the isolation policy, we're on our own. The pilots know nothing of this operation other than the orders to drop off supplies to this location until the end of this year. I think they were told this is for a mining operation. No wonder Fisher is going mad over our timelines. So the people just starved to death? Well, then how's that explain the blood on the floor? How's that explain kind of the Amrita storms? And how's that explain that there's just kind of nobody around? Note from Andrew Fisher instead of Andrew Ryan, who was named after Ayn Rand. Due to the power strain as the reactor ramps up production to meet our increased quota, we're experiencing frequent power outages. As such, I've ordered Amrita generators as a backup power source to be temporarily installed throughout the facility. Blackouts should cease to occur. And I feel like that maybe spelled their own doom, because they may have brought the monster to them with the Amrita generators. Just a lot of story, a lot of backstory here. Kind of wish there was a character that would just talk to me and tell me what's going on. This would be a perfect time to find a skeleton, put life back into it, have it be someone like Virginia King, or just the worker, or it doesn't matter who it is. Somebody would just tell you backstory and have some dialogue, some human to interact with. Note from a researcher, I finally got to see one of those orbs out in the wild while I was on leave for the day. There's something surreal about them. I still stared into it for who knows how long. I'm starting to struggle to pronounce some of this stuff. Yeah. There's a decent chance, I would guess, that this is just trying to look like BioShock. What's really funny, though, and I don't know how you don't, well, clipping through things, I don't know how you wouldn't, at the end of the day, label this as just a major failure on their part. Is that if they were trying to make this game look like BioShock and sell off of the success of BioShock, here we have unintelligible sketchings. Leave me alone. Well, I just clicked on it and some audio started playing. And I feel like that is a Easter egg to the Slender Man 7 Pages game that they made, or as a sequel to Slender Man: The Arrival. Yeah, if you were going to try and sell this as something that looks like BioShock, you needed more heads-up display. You needed to be able to show some guns. You needed to show some characters. There's just entire elements here that they probably would have liked to have in a game like this, and they just ran out of time or budget, or both. Because I don't think even on launch of this game you would be so confused to think that it was more than a cheap ripoff of BioShock. And that's the problem, is you really don't want to compare yourself to one of the best games out there. That's a lot of pressure. Even if you do have an actual just natural love and obsession with BioShock. And I wouldn't be surprised if these game developers did. They just fell in love with BioShock to the point where they became blinded by their love and obsession with it, that they thought they could do something similar. If I was a small indie company and I wanted to do something like BioShock, I would take out all of the running and gunning stuff and only have a story experience, and I'd make it very short, and I would probably have considerably fewer characters. BioShock, since it was such a large game, did succeed in having a lot of audio logs that didn't really matter. They would either in the audio logs you'd get a hint to some cache of weapons or upgrade materials, or like a code to unlock a door or something that was optional. There really was only 4 or 5 characters in the first Bioshock game that had audio logs that mattered. But we are definitely running into a problem, and I'm drinking a lot of drink to just keep my mouth wet so I can read all this. 5 different audio logs in the same room? Note from an administrator. Now we have yet another character. They should have just given all these people names, and then maybe in parentheses given them a title, or they could have called them Administrator Jones or Janitor Simon, something like that. Trying to keep this operation a secret has been an absolute nightmare between coordinating surreptitious supply drops, securing illegitimate funds, concealing resources and manpower to create thousands of ghost accounts and fake offices to bury the operation from any level of government, barring someone accidentally stumbling across this location in one of the most remote areas in the planet. There's no chance anyone will find us here. Okay, well, I guess they were right. They weren't found for a while. So I guess the alternate timeline concept that I thought was happening, where the USSR won and America was part of the USSR, was wrong. I guess now that I think about it some more, the old military vehicles did have a star on them, didn't they? Yeah, but it's been a long time since I've seen something like MASH, which would have reminded me of that fact. And we're still collecting these. Note from Private Riley, he must be an important character. I've been ordered to patrol the Soma facility again today. I've circled through the same rooms 30 times since noon. At least I get to smile at the cute scientist in the pressure chambers each time. She hasn't smiled back at me yet. I hope she doesn't find me creepy. So maybe Private Riley isn't an obvious spy. But then if he was an obvious spy, him writing a note to make himself look awkward would be just there as a way of throwing off suspicion. And they definitely are approaching a point where it feels like we need a flashlight again. Note from a Pathfinder. It's odd to think about what exactly a life is once you've experienced quantum death. What exactly are the ingredients that make up my life? My ingredients aren't really any different from anyone else's. Carbon, calcium, hydrogen, etc. held together with some energy. So what exactly makes me me? I guess if anything, I'm just a pattern. One of the forms out of the chaotic blender of matter in the universe, like a whirlpool out of the water. When I die, the pattern simply dissipates back into the cosmos. Are we all the same universe simply expressing itself? Yeah, they're stealing ideas from, like, I think the host of Cosmos, who was like a physicist or astrologist. He's not live anymore. I mean, the original host of Cosmos. So they do seem to constantly have this pattern of behavior in which they steal from the best, and I appreciate it. This would be a lot worse game if they hadn't done it. I just wish that they had a drop of creativity or something new or different to throw into this. It feels like maybe they were coming off a history of making the Slender Man games, which were horror games where you were just walking around creepy environments. And they said, well, let's take those creepy environments we already know how to work with, and let's make a game that's slightly less of a creepy environment game. Takes a bit of a delay for them to be pacified. But once they are pacified, they seem to be fine. And as long as we keep running into batteries, we're going to be perfectly fine. Feels like there should be a bit more of a challenge. Honestly. I probably didn't intend for me to be able to do something like that and just work my way around. But that would be kind of also a thing that would be more interesting, gameplays wise.
I can't believe it. I'm almost at a loss for words. This is the discovery of a lifetime. No, of the 20th century. Have I found Schrodinger's cat? This is beyond my wildest imagination. As a result of the reaction between the Amrita energy and the Pathfinder's own life force, they experience what I have dubbed quantum death. When a Pathfinder dies while wearing the suit, their consciousness branches into a new reality, unharmed. They achieve quantum immortality.
See, the problem with that idea, and we're getting obviously an audio log from telling us about something we already know about. The problem with the idea of on the death of a Pathfinder, they're transported into an alternate reality is the outside observers, people not in the Pathfinder suits, seem to not see people disappear when they die in a L.E.A.F suit. And the alternate realities don't seem like they are particularly different from the reality you were just in. So if you're jumping a branch to a different alternate reality, it is a very, very close branch in which very little, if nothing, has changed. Of course, we may get to an ending when we jump to a very different alternate reality. See, memo, please refrain from wasting office supplies unnecessarily. Stock is running low. Please exhaust all office supplies to their full extent. Well, that was slightly creepy. Note from the Boilermaker. From a Boilermaker. Is a Boilermaker a job title? They told me we're building some kind of alternate energy facility here, but little else. Tradesmen are only allowed in certain areas at certain times for certain jobs. They're keeping us completely in the dark, having us all focus on a single task rather than giving us any hints into the big picture. What are they hiding from us? So, like, am I supposed to be afraid because it's a little dark? Note from a contractor. Now that the isolation policy is in effect, I've found out that this is a weapon project of some sort. I don't know much, but I hope to find out more. I just wish I could talk to my family back home, let them know I'm doing okay. Like, if this was going to be a project where everybody was going to be like restricted to base and isolated, you kind of would have told them all that at the beginning in general terms. Like, nothing really stops them from saying this is a top secret classified military project you'll be working on. Alright, we're starting to get some creepiness. But boy, is the game taking its sweet time to get to this point. And I don't think it's doing a great job by having us read. Like, infrastructure report, the reactor and thermal diffuser are very unstable and must be located both far apart and underground to ensure any accidental explosions are contained. Large vents are needed to circulate cool air deep into the mountain. Conveniently, one of the mountains already has an ancient tomb leading deep into the heart of the mountain. This site was chosen for the thermal diffuser and weapon site. The two sites are connected via underground rail to transport materials. You kind of put that in the wrong place. It's just a lot of work. Ralph, I saw you take a sip of my coffee this morning, and it wasn't the first time either. I know you're how scarce coffee is getting around here. Please stop sipping my coffee, Frederick. Note from a worker, I'm getting real sick of your attitude, Ralph. I saw you sneak into my office and steal pencils again. I'm running low and really need them for my work. The next supply drop isn't until the spring. Stop stealing my pencils, please, and thank you, Frederick. Seems like Frederick's either going crazy or Ralph is a grade A jerk. Note from a researcher, this is no good. Simon is sucking up to Fisher again. He's always first to volunteer for assignments, which is no surprise as Fisher can hardly enter a room without him following. He's not even all that smart. He's just great at agreeing with everything Fisher has to say. This is how you get ahead these days. And here we have some fake branded sodas, which I guess is more evidence that this is an American facility. And there's a picture there, but I can't pick it up. Then we still get creepiness. And I would guess there actually isn't any music playing right now. And that's probably very intentional, that they're going for more of a silent experience. It's weird though they have so many notes amongst other notes that can't be read. Memo: all personnel expected to work longer hours during the ramp up in production. If you believe you're unable to perform your duties as expected, please report to a supervisor immediately. And what's the supervisor gonna do? Shoot you to save resources? They're gonna cook the slow people? Like, yeah, this is just a lot of nothing. A lot of nothing that does not really serve the greater concept of the horror elements. Feels like there might be some kind of potential achievement around collecting all the pages, and honestly I wouldn't be surprised if there is in the Slender Man 8 pages game also kind of an achievement for doing this. Let's see. Can we not give life to these plants? You have to hit them, I think, fairly accurately. And they already had life in them, so. You can take more energy than you need, which I guess is good to know. Yeah, I never really thought the idea of a game where you're running around trying to find random pages hidden in an area was a smart video game concept. So I don't feel like this is a smart video game concept either. There definitely have been times where I played games with achievements where it is just get all the audio logs. A lot of times those glitch out, those achievements, and you can't get one of the audio logs. Some games are particularly generous and they say get 90% of them, and that's the maximum achievement. That way you can give a 10% buffer. But I've never played a game first and foremost to get all the audio logs or read all the notes. That would be more something like BioShock, where if you're playing the game 2 or 3 times anyways, you might as well get all the notes, or you might want to get all the notes. I've seen nothing in any of these notes so far that have made me actually want to read any more. If you have a memo, please report any suspicious activity to an officer immediately. Any hesitation could place the entire operation in jeopardy. Yeah. I feel like repeated propaganda posters on the walls compared to a note like that would be better. And propaganda posters could be reused and copy and pasted in lots of places, and that really wouldn't hurt anything. It's kind of funny there isn't American flags anywhere or any like nationalist material. Note from a psychologist. Why would they have a psychologist? Several guards on night watch have reported large creature sightings. Some of them are a little shaken up by it. It might just have been stuck out here in the middle of nowhere for so long that it's finally getting to them. Either way, we need full annual psychological assessments for all personnel in the near future. This is Charlotte Smith, psychological operator. I guess it would be kind of funny if, after reading that note, if you had to read that note, which you don't, it'd be kind of funny if there was a large animal that just appeared, but I don't think there is. I don't think there's enough scripted events to reach any of this. A large-scale extinction event occurred in the North America near the end of the Pleistocene period. I can't pronounce that. Interestingly, the epicenter of the extinction seems to storm from this valley's location. Could Area 634 have anything to do with it? So, is it the life seed that killed the dinosaurs? Are we going to get the life seed and then kill all humans on the planet on accident and start some new pattern of life? This wouldn't be a terrible game if it had Mothman in it. Like, if there is some foreboding doom that it will befall all of the world, like playing into that cryptid urban myth would be interesting. And this is literally just another room. Now we're up to 20. So maybe this was supposed to be like a mess hall. Looks like that's what it might be. And we'll try and move a little bit faster. Do you feel like I'm hearing a squeaking of a rat? I did for a brief second there. Seems like I can jump over this fence. We really are just turning on the power for no reason. Note from a researcher, Miller. Today one of the guards patrolling the Soma facility walked by. I asked him if he was keeping an eye on things. I don't think he got it. So I hear flies flying around, but I don't see any. There we go. Okay. So you have to be fairly careful. Still, that did manage to set us in a dangerous situation. And this is like a shower bathroom facility. Again, feels very much like the section in BioShock where your bathroom things. There were paid toilets in BioShock 1, and there was actually a time in which in the United States that was an actual thing where you had to pay a nickel to use a toilet seat. They became illegal due to women arguing that they had to use toilets way more than men's, and thus it was an unfair, sexist system. And it certainly was kind of ridiculous to charge people to use toilets in anyways, because if you do something like that, and they still do that in Europe, what you're going to end up with is a lot of public urination and defecation, even, which also happens in Europe. Note from a researcher: the leaf suit may prove to be the pinnacle feat of the pendulum, the ability to manipulate life and death using the god hand, the agility, and the ability to circumvent death, all thanks to the Amrita energy converted from the valley's orbs. We can create the ultimate soldier. The Mark II's successor will herald a new wave of iteration. So, I guess I'm wearing a Mark II. I would argue the God Hand concept, probably not something you would want to use, considering how they were kind of going with Mesoamerican story. Note from Private Matthews: the way Edwin makes a show with Virginia all the time really makes my teeth grind. Everyone knows the romantic involvement between personnel is prohibited, yet no one does anything about it. Why does he get to run around with a girl while the rest of us have to sit around and play poker for the 9,000th time? Okay, we're getting to a point where we're going in circles. Let's see. And do the mirrors work? No. They reflect the background, but they don't reflect you. Which that would have been a nice opportunity to actually see the female character I'm playing as. They've completely ruined the concept of being able to run. Now, they've totally forgotten about it. There's no way you could run around in this facility and gain momentum and do anything with it. See, this is an energy tank, but otherwise there's just collectibles. And we have yet another energy thing. Note from Charlotte Smith: I have run through the annual psychological assessment for all the personnel stationed in Area 634. Many are reaching a breaking point in their isolation from friends and family. Back home in the work hours demanding from them is taking a toll on morale. Despite this, most are quite mentally stable. The project lead, Andrew Fisher, does concern me. So the guy in charge is the crazy one. Surprise, surprise. Although in all fairness, he very possibly was crazy before any of this happened. This game kind of feels reminiscent compared to a game called QUBE and its sequel QUBE 2, in that you walk around a very well-designed, pretty area, and then you do some kind of basic puzzles and nothing else, and then there's kind of not really a story. In actuality, I believe QUBE originally had absolutely no story in it, and they did a remastered version after it sold fairly well to put some story into it without actually changing any of the gameplay, and that I think did improve the quality of the game quite a bit. But yeah, that's what I feel like here, is that I'm just walking from point A to point B to point A to point C, and let's see. This is the different teams, so they're sorted by their team labels. For a top secret facility, there's a lot of people at this facility, which then kind of opens the door and the thought to why not just have more people instead of overworking them. It seems like nobody's going to be able to leak out any information anyways. It's so isolated, so just double or triple the staff, bring in way more resources. There's no reason not to bring in resources. I guess this is going to take us to the Astra facility. Cannot put life into an electronic device. I think there's a mistake in that idea. I think I probably would generalize this more so that you can put life into many different things, or you have this, instead of being a life, that you're just quantum rewinding something so that it's moving back in its own personal history and coming back to an earlier age. Again, very Bioshock.
Do you have what it takes to master the marvels of this groundbreaking technology? Pathfinders are divided into squads of 3. Your objectives include testing L.E.A.F technology and to aid the anthropological effort as we further explore the ruins of this spectacular valley. As such, Pathfinders are granted incredible speed and agility. In earlier Mark I models, soldiers piloting L.E.A.F suits were given the stimulant DX9 to exert the energy needed to drive the impressive exoskeleton. However, this was found to cause sudden cardiac arrest amongst unwitting Pathfinders. In the latest model, the Mark II, DX9 has been replaced with Amrita energy. The transfusion of Amrita with Pathfinders results in a phenomenon known as quantum death. But be forewarned, if a Pathfinder dies while wearing our suit, something else must forfeit its own life in their stead. So be sure to be careful out there.
Feels like you should see this video really early in the game, like an hour before you actually have the suit, and just blow it off. This would be a great point for the main character to say, yeah, right, coming back to life, don't be ridiculous. Oddly too, they're not mentioning the ability to swing, so I've already got an ability apparently that most people didn't have. But that was a suit upgrade, so I guess that's not super surprising. This might be a little bit difficult to get out of.
To produce bombs of unparalleled yield, we rely upon the life seed housed within a reactor found deep underground beneath the Soma facility. By harvesting the high energy yield orbs found within the valley, we pass their energy through the life seed, which acts as a sort of amplifier, magnifying the energy to unprecedented levels. The explosives we create here will dwarf anything the Manhattan Project could ever possibly fathom.
So they're exploding bombs. The explosive energy is getting amplified by the life seed. Weird. Apparently this region's life energy is lower, so I don't know why. See, note from a researcher. The toxicology report came in from an autopsy conducted by the latest Pathfinder fatality. As suspected, the all excess of DX9 led to cardiac arrest. The sooner we circumvent the need for DX9, the better. I feel like this might be a programming joke for DirectX 9, which DirectX 9 was a very long-running, but by modern standards, pretty bad overlay API for drawing graphics. DirectX 9 is still used by a lot of old games, and there's, I believe, volume version 9.0C is the most recent version that you would want to install if you ever did need to install it by itself. In most cases, it's just packed into the installers of any game that actually uses it. Kind of in the exact opposite of that, DirectX 10 is basically nothing. I don't know if there was even a official released version of DirectX 10, which you'd think there would be for Windows 10, which would have been about the right time. But instead, it seems like they mostly dropped jumped straight to DirectX 11. I wouldn't be surprised if they jumped to DirectX 12. Ray tracing in DirectX 11 or 12 are definitely going to be a big thing, even if your hardware can't support ray tracing software using DirectX and other APIs, middle softwares like that will. Note from Miller, the other scientists are all talking about atoms. I told them not to trust them since they make everything up. They asked me to leave. So now we're just getting like bad dad jokes. Yeah. I don't even know what to say about Miller other than Miller is setting himself up for being my first preferred boss enemy to find and kill if I was going to actually find and kill anybody, but almost certainly I'm not. So instead we're probably going to just have a collection of terrible Miller jokes that we run across. We know, we can kind of see this. We know that there's got to be 2 more areas at minimum. And by my guess, there probably is 3 or 4 more areas. But I definitely am having a hard time thinking that there really would be worth the effort to run back to places and try and find collectibles, even if it was fairly easy and quick to do. These looked kind of like collectibles that you would pick up just on the ground, but we don't have any collectibles on the ground. It would be interesting if this was an area that just constantly released more Emerita swarms, but I think if something like that happened, we would be overwhelmed very quickly. And we have just flickering lights. So they really are just giving us life. They're giving us these big rooms so that we can have kind of a boss fight. Yeah, I don't even know what you bring life to. Like, seems like everything I see has life. Isn't that what the blue indicator means? So perhaps we will hit a point in the gameplay where we enter deeper and deeper into these kind of facilities and there's just something dead somewhere and you would have to either find it to bring back life or you can't find it, and thus you're just more likely to potentially kill all the life in the entire valley or the entire area. I think it's the entire valley. I almost start to see a gameplay mechanic here in the idea that if the game started to get more difficult and you did need to find the one thing that was dead to bring life back, that'd be interesting. But it would also just effectively make it a hidden object game, a 3D hidden object game with some different kind of game mechanics and some platforming, but still mostly just a hidden object game. Note from a researcher, depending on the degree of magnitude, certain organisms provide very little Emerita energy when targeted with the L.E.A.F suit's God Hand. Smaller organisms, such as insects, grass, flowers, and others, less substantial entities provide close to zero energy, thereby affording no value to the Pathfinder seeking energy. Alright, well, we had already been told that. There's definitely a lot of stuff, a lot of things that could have been skipped. I wouldn't have hated to potentially open a few of these and have nothing in them, or just have more energy cells in them, since we already are working with energy tanks that automatically refill. It doesn't really change anything if I opened a few of the briefcases and got some dud rewards. See, I don't know if this is just one of the generator rooms, or if this is just kind of nothing. I guess we have to kind of work on the idea that there are 25 gems that are needed. To open the pyramid we haven't seen at all. Do we read this one? Note from researcher Miller: I've been trying to think of new puns all day about the stored energy of an object. I think a lot of them hold potential. This guy. Alright, down we go. Let's see, I think we probably are fairly close to hitting a new load section. And it does seem like every hour or so we get to a new section while accomplishing rather little. Note from a researcher: I thought the bombs being created were impressive enough, but it's the new weapon prototype that will undoubtedly steal all the attention. It's being called Thanatos. Okay. Feels like you probably would have had a game have the generators turn on some computers and then have some of the computers be readable just to keep things varied. And yet they didn't do that. Everything's written on paper, which kind of makes this like the worst secured facility ever, that you're just writing down all the evidence against you. They could be stolen and taken instead of securing it in safes or something. Let's see. Note from Andrew Fisher: it was soon discovered that if the Pathfinder had a vision of their own death, it is in fact actually them actually dying instead of remaining dead. They branch into a new wave of reality whereupon they continue to live, albeit at the cost of the equivalent amount of life within that branch. To put it plainly, if a Pathfinder wearing a leaf suit dies through some accident, their death is traded with the life of a nearby living thing. They achieve quantum immortality. Next, effectively, those wearing the leaf suits gain the ability to deny the actuality of wave function collapse. In other words, the ability to branch through various objective realities as part of the many-world theory of quantum mechanics. With this ability, Pathfinders have visions of themselves dying. Each time this occurs, something nearby them dies, such as an animal or nearby vegetation. So we haven't heard of any story of a nearby human or Pathfinder dying. Quantum theory, I would argue, is not even well understood or known now. At the time of this happening, it would have been basically not understood at all. And even the multi-world theory, not popularly believed, I imagine, by this timeline when Andrew Fisher would have been around. Although we could very easily be in an alternate universe where things happen differently. Let's see, another from Andrew Fisher. So this feels like this is Andrew Fisher's office, just sitting in front of a giant radio communication array and 3 desks. Tracing the life seed's location was a simple matter. After years of tracking the epicenter of the Pleasantonic extinction event, I was led to this valley's location. I couldn't believe my eyes upon immediate examination of one of the orbs. I discovered their vast energy potential. With the help of the Pathfinders, I was able to locate the life seed within the valley. Oppenheimer won't believe his ears upon hearing the marvels I've accomplished. What's funny here is we haven't seen any of the little spirit creatures. So I guess they just are not in the Soma facility. Let's see. When I met Einstein at Princeton, I couldn't help but see a hint of Oppenheimer reflected in him. I was astonished by his clairvoyance into the makeup of the universe, viewing the experience of all things natural and spiritual in perfect unison, with the self acting as little more than an optical illusion in the perpetual flow of the universe. When Oppenheimer and I studied ideology under Arthur Ryder, I could see that same compassion and empathy for all living creatures brewing within him. Man, that is a lot of words, a lot of big words, a lot of big words that ideally I would have just preferred Andrew Ryan to have said in audio logs. It does very much feel like they intentionally here have made it done just the minimal amount. There you go. Found something dead to bring back life. Feels like they've really done the minimum amount of work as far as audio acting, and instead put the rest of the story, now that we're several hours into the game, into the reading. Note from a researcher: quantum death and immortality using L.E.A.F technology is a fascinating field of study. Using this tech, a person could live out a full life without fear of accidentally cutting it short, albeit the use of immortality is a misnomer, as the user simply shifts into a new timeline where they are still alive. This can only hold true until all practical timelines are exhausted. Interesting. For example, an elderly man dying of natural causes is unlikely to shift into a timeline where they do not die in the parallel world. Is very unlikely to exist. So it's not that there are infinite realities where everything happens. It's that there are some finite number of realities. Okay. I feel like I might just be near where the projector was, and that's why it sounds like the projector is on. That's about all I can figure from that. We'll speed up a little bit, but that's about all we can do. And I was hoping to see something more, but man, it's just text and text and text, an entire level just built around backstory that's unimportant. Let's see, why the hell is Fisher making us ramp up production? We're already working ourselves half to death down here, and now he wants sleep-deprived people working around the clock. We're working on explosives, for crying out loud. That's from a researcher. And the Fisher guy's out of his mind, totally megalomaniac. Just look at the Pathfinder statue in the main lobby. I can't believe we all have to take orders from him, unquestionably, during this wartime. Surely I can't be the only one who feels this way. Yeah, he does kind of seem like he's probably not a good enough leader, and he very possibly would just get fragged, which was the process of, if in the military a leader was particularly bad, they would just throw a live grenade in his tent when he was asleep, and then blow him up, and then everybody would stick to a story saying, oh, it must have been the enemy that killed him. And I mean, it's such an isolated facility. It does feel like you could easily have killed him or overthrown him, and he would have had no backup at all. It doesn't even seem like there's a lot of security in this facility. And then you have like this door that I guess maybe if we get a Metroidvania super dash that would run through this door, that might give us a shortcut. But unless something's gonna chase us, I just don't know. And yeah, I've kind of forgotten that the water kills me, because we haven't been dealing with water. And then there's another shortcut door I have to question about it. Crane block overhead. I mean, do I really need that? I guess I do. I kind of wonder if you were playing as the male voice, if maybe your left hand would be the god hand. No, it seems like it's always the right hand. And once again, the game is just gonna fling us way up, and there's nothing here. Odd little slope in all of this. I'll just jump. And you don't bounce off walls or anything, which you sometimes do in other games. So that does allow you to effectively hit a wall and then you just fall down fairly easily. Let's see, maximum load 4,000 pounds. So in theory, if I dropped down, maybe I could break the elevator and get like to a shortcut. Maybe? What did I just do?
The valley, it's suffering. The natural life here seems to be slowly dwindling. Edwin thinks I'm crazy, but I see it becoming quieter. Are we gradually killing this place?
That self-righteous anthropologist is stirring up trouble again. Her moral objections to this project are the last thing I need on my mind. If it weren't for the isolation policy, I'd have her removed from the premises and sent back home.
Were they harming the valley? I'm just gonna land here and see if that breaks. Take a few bits of energy. Look over here and see if something unlocked when I energized that. Yeah, it seems like you probably could have just jumped all the way up. Seems like it would be kind of silly. Oops. There's our second death. Are we on the right side of where we want to be? And that did take out like 2 parts of our energy. So I guess what you want to do here is probably get as much of an angle up here. And then jump like that. Let's see. Was there... This is about as far as I'm willing to go. So was there some secret thing I powered up? No. As far as I can tell. Something blue. We're looking for something green. To bring back life to the facility. Yeah, it's questionable what even lost its life around here. When I died, would have had to have been relatively close. And see, instead of focusing on that time on jumping, I was more focused on, on releasing the swing is what I was doing the first time. This time I was more focused on jumping, which clearly is the thing you should be more focused on. But these little mushrooms didn't lose their life either. So, unless there was some kind of secret crash through this wall, it seems weirdly designed. Well, the problem here is we still haven't found a new area. It feels like there should be a new area. And we assume don't want to jump down there. Let's see. So I guess we are getting more into a acorn area. Then they want us to probably go down here, and I think we're gonna have to wrap up fairly quickly. So 26 acorns is a lot more acorns than what we've been required in any other area. Find that surprising. And it's a little weird that there's these kind of facility things behind the acorn doors, because I guess that means the acorn doors reset. And that's a full energy upgrade, but not enough of an upgrade. If that was 26, it might be as many as 100. I wouldn't be surprised. This next time we run into an acorn door. I don't know if there's water down there. Yeah, there is. Feels like something besides water should have been the thing. And here we have another door, which they have done a very nice job of conveniently allowing us to forget that doors existed, and instead having a lot of the other kinds of doors that actually do matter and people actually do walk through. Now we're looking through this area where we had, and we have a giant red button. So we're opening the bay doors. So what? Is that gonna depacify? Yeah, there's like 2 facilities. 2 new swarms. I guess to throw you off. But this is an area we've been to, right? Like, this is where we started the game. Or started this level. And so down we go into the core reactor. Okay. The orbs that grow within the valley yield vast deposits of energy. Pendulum aims to win the war. It didn't take that long to load. Okay. Here we have a swinging sound effect. And we do need to try and put some life into some things as soon as we can find things. And it does seem like it is getting to the point where we are running low on things. It feels like we fell a lot further than what was actually shown. And we definitely seem like we are just in another area. So the Soma reactor is quite considerably far to the right, which does kind of make it seem like there's probably only 2 more areas after this at most. And yeah, it does just feel confusing as far as where that giant pyramid was, which we just have not seen the pyramid at all, unless I just missed it. I mean, one would have assumed that it was in Sosora's Valley, and that it would have been blatantly obvious that it was in Sosora's Valley, which, if we think about where we were basically at the ground floor of the valley at the beginning of the game, because we crashed our canoe boat, and then Source Valley was pretty much at ground floor. But then we went up the elevator to Titan Rock, so we're high into the sky on a mountain, and the Soma facility has mostly been on top of that mountain also. So now we've fallen down, so either we overshot the height of Titan Rock and we are actually below what was originally ground level, or we're just back to ground level, and I wouldn't be surprised if we are just back to ground level. I wouldn't be surprised if this whole map does just a full circle, and that there might be some weird achievement once you've unlocked everything to just try and run through the whole map a second time. I wouldn't even be upset if that was actually a gameplay mechanic and part of the story to be in kind of a long chase sequence. But it would be a fairly long chase sequence of 1 or 2 hours. As far as upgrades, we have maybe 2 more energy upgrades, and that's it. Which I assume I've been either 100% successful so far of getting all the upgrades, or I've missed maybe 1 or 2 things. Acorn wise, we're going to have to get out of the urban areas, as the facility areas. I wouldn't really call them urban areas, to get more acorns, and it does seem like we would need probably 52 minimum. As far as medallions, seems like 23. We have 23 now. Seems like 25 might be the magic number, and maybe we'll miss one at that point too, and that might be another reason to run around and look for it. But I feel like some kind of radar upgrade would need to be given to us to keep us motivated to do that. There is a major risk in this game where we get to the end and it just gives us a cutscene and the end credits, and that just at that point gives me permission to say, okay, I'm done with this game. There's no reason to try and run around and get all the collectibles or do anything extra, which I think very well might be the case anyways, because we might get to the credits and then it may just end the game, and you may have to load from a save before you finish the game to try and do anything extra. Anyways, we've gone an hour and 23 minutes, so that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.